how are we doing? So, this past week I went skiing, and although I don't travel like crazy, I'll confidently say that I've nailed my packing routine. But more specifically and importantly, the way I pack. And I'm judging my packing routine based on a few factors, but the one that essentially decides it all and that we all know is, did I forget anything? Arguably, sometimes you also need to cut off that excess weight and prioritize. And this is also why I pack the way I do, and I'm gonna show you guys how I do this in this video. Also, given that it's a new year, I hope a lot of you guys have planned your travels for the next at least 6 months or so. So hopefully this video comes in good time and is quite helpful for you guys. Quick side note, does anyone else love to pack and kind of find it quite therapeutic? It must have something to do with the anticipation of traveling, because it's only for the way there. And when it comes to the way back, that's a whole different story. We all know it's a, shove it in and pray it fits job. So this brings me to why it's worth considering your packing style. And there, in my opinion, are a load of reasons why you would want to travel light. And the main one for me is honestly ease of mind. Now, I'm not one to lose much, but when traveling, you're either likely to be excited, and so you won't be thinking much about your belongings, or tired, especially at the end of your travels, or you have a layover, or maybe before you didn't get that much sleep and it's an early flight. But I think with each additional bag that you're carrying, you have a higher likelihood of losing or misplacing said bag. It also saves a ton of time. And as if like myself, you tend to maybe overestimate a little bit how much time you have when traveling, going straight through security with just a carry-on and being able to go straight to the gate once arriving to the airport is a huge plus. On top of this, at the tail end of your travels, it means no having to wait for your bag, and also potentially have that little thought in the back of your mind thinking, what happens if it's lost or damaged or something like that. And ever since I started to pack like this, it's kind of been the only way I've ever traveled now. And these are just some of the reasons why I pack the way I do. But now let's get to what I pack and also how I pack. So when packing, I like to always start with hygiene, because chronologically, this is the first thing I do when I wake up. For this, both an electric toothbrush as well as a manual one, just in case the electric one runs out of battery. And I also start with toiletries because typically one of the most forgotten categories when traveling and packing tends to be, you guessed it, toiletries. It's one of those things that seems so obvious, but it's so mundane that it just flies over our head, and sometimes we tend to forget it. But not anymore. So I dedicate this case for my toiletries. It's waterproof, fits everything I will end up needing, and sometimes more. Plus, it keeps everything in one place, and that is ideally what you want. Now, space is fairly limited, so in this pouch goes my tongue cleaner. So underrated, honestly. Dare I say better than a toothbrush? Well, maybe not, but it still comes a close second. Then after that, obviously, I get the toothpaste, and then floss, shampoo, conditioner, and shower gel. When bringing liquids on a flight, especially ones that come in bigger bottles, usually like shampoo, conditioner, and shower gel, I find using these little tubes to be a lot more beneficial and honestly the best way to do it. But just make sure that you have labels on them, because otherwise, trust me, it will get confusing. And it's up to you where you want to get these bottles from. I personally either get them from Amazon or somewhere else, but I prefer the ones, I will say, that have the twist off cap and that you can just use straight out the bottle instead of having, let's say, a pipette or a spraying thing. And I found this combo always works to fit in those airport toiletry plastic bags. Though, worst case, shampoos and conditioners are usually available at the hotels on the other end, as well as shower gel, so it isn't the biggest deal if you can't bring them on the flight or you can't get any of those little bottles, given the situation. And if you're wondering where the mouthwash is, I've ditched that because based on my research, I found some studies that indicate that using it every day or even twice a day can lead to an increased chance of developing high blood pressure. Next, sticking to the theme, I've got my grooming products, because you can't get caught lacking at the airport with a unibrow as well as a scratchy and bushy beard when you'll be likely running into your airport crush, even though they'll likely be wearing aloe leggings, Uggs, and an oversized sweatshirt. This category is very simple, as these next items do tend to go a long way. You can either carry a manual razor with shave gel, cream, or foam, or if you have an electric trimmer, this also works almost as well with lining up and getting a very close shave. Either way, one of these is going to come with me. If it's a longer stay, it'll likely be the manual one, but if it's sort of a week, maybe 2 weeks, I'll likely bring the electric trimmer with me. Plus, I'm also packing in this bag a deodorant. By the way, none of these products are sponsored, but I will leave a link in the description if you would like to give the ones I'm using a spin. Lastly, I'll either pack one or more of these sample-sized fragrances or a full-size one that I'm liking at the moment and that I feel matches the time of year as well, and this is a great way to stand out in a non-visual way. Also, whilst going through my what to bring list, I'm laying everything out in front of me. Visually, this is a really nice way to see everything you've already got so far, and it makes putting everything in the bag in an organized manner a lot more easy. Moving on, the next packing category I go on to is skincare. Especially important where I'm going. I cannot be getting a goggle tan because the chances are if you see someone with a goggle tan, their pizza turns on the green ones will be part of their personality trait. So I set myself with the basics: a cleanser, moisturizer, SPF, and I do like to bring a serum, whether it be vitamin C or retinol. If you have multiple skincare products at home, it's also a good idea to tailor the products to where you're going and how you think your skin will be. So for example, because I went skiing, I brought more hydrating products as my skin tends to get more dry in that snowy and windy weather. Now we've gotten the little things out the way. So now let's move on to what you'll actually be wearing. And although I've always naturally done this, it's good to know that there's a word out there being used for it, and that is the idea of a capsule wardrobe. And it's quite interesting, but I feel like a lot of us do it naturally anyways, and it's basically packing something that is easily pairable with everything else that you're going to bring. Or well, almost everything. You know, a few loud pieces never hurt anyone. Unless it's actually my old ski jacket in which I won an award for it being one of the ugliest jackets. But you know, besides that, the other, loud clothes haven't hurt anyone. Of course, depending on where you're going, we'll decide what clothes you bring and also what clothes you have. But in my case, because I was going somewhere cold, skiing, this is what I was set to pack. This is also considering I wasn't planning on doing any laundry when I was out there and waited until I got back. So with that in mind, these are the categories for me. I like to pack from the ground up. So first I'll start with the socks. Now I'm going for 7 days, so I'll pack socks for every single day, and then also another one for my traveling day. And then just in case, maybe 1 or 2 pairs, let's say I want to get a workout in, I can easily change to a clean pair and it won't affect any of my other days. Then we get to underwear. No more other days of forgetting and having to buy random brands out there. So in this case, I pack 1 for every day, and then obviously an extra 1 for when I'm traveling, and then an extra 1 or 2 just in case I want to work out, and I have that clean extra pair. Moving on to the trousers. This one really isn't like socks and underwear. You kind of really only need about 2 or 3 pairs, 1 pair of jeans, 1 pair of nice trousers, and then 1 casual for every day. And these are the ones I brought. These ones are quite loose and comfortable fitting, lounging around. Then I brought some nice chinos for that fondue night when I was going out for dinner, and then just a random pair when I wanted to rock something that wasn't those 2 pairs. T-shirts, I bring a short sleeve one for every day as well as a long sleeve one just in case it gets a bit colder in the nighttime. Then for pajamas, 1 pair will do, to be honest. Either it's trousers and a t-shirt, or just shorts and a t-shirt, but pajamas only 1 pair. Then for the nicer shirts, I'll bring 2 of these. These are the ones with the collars as well as the buttons, and these are for the nice nights out, for example the dinners and that sort of stuff. Then because we're sort of getting up there and we're working with limited space here, sweaters, I'll either bring 2 super light ones or 1 thicker one. And the one that I decided to go for was this thicker one, and this was great for the whole trip. And for headwear, these 2 hats were great, as well as this beanie, because once again, I don't know if I told you guys this, but I was going somewhere cold and I was skiing. And lastly, I've fallen into the sunglasses trap where I literally can't go outside without wearing a pair for some reason. Might be my very desirable blue eyes, but I have fallen into that trap, and I decided to bring 2 pairs of sunglasses, 1 for the sunnier days and also 1 just casual one that I could wear around. Now, I like to think there are 3 main ways to pack your clothes. Number 1 being the messy way, and this entails just throwing and shoving everything in. We're all used to it, especially at the end of our journey when we're going back home, and I have definitely fallen victim to this one once or twice before. Then we're getting a bit more elevated here. Number 2, we move on to the fold method, and this is great for sweaters, crew necks, and those thicker items, also ones that are nicer and you don't really want to crease, so like I was mentioning earlier. And lastly, number 3, the tuck and roll. Well, it's mainly just roll, but the tuck and roll sounds tactical, so let's go with that. Which I think of being kind of a mix of the other 2 ways, and it looks like this. This is also my method of packing for most clothes, and from my research, I can see that it's also one of the most effective ways to pack. And as I was bringing a thicker sweater on this trip, as well as my t-shirts and trousers, I decided to roll everything and then fold my thicker items, so my sweater, and also those nicer items, which were the shirts when I was going out. Luckily, it fit for this trip, but if you're packing heavily on the sweaters and you end up running out of space, what I'll usually do is just put 1 on and then also put 1 over my shoulder, and this usually frees up a ton of space. Plus, it's always cold at the airport and in the air, so it works wonderfully until you land in Mexico or another hot country, but you're there at that point and that's all that counts. The second to last part of packing for me is tech, and also being one of the most important parts as well. I try to keep as much of this on my person or as easily accessible as I can. That can be on the top of my bag next to the liquids for easy access, or in the side pocket of a backpack. In terms of what I keep on me, this will be my phone, headphones, portable charger. Then in my bag I put my laptop, adapters, and also a normal charger. Now in terms of putting things in the side of my backpack, I'll usually only risk a portable charger or an adapter in that pocket, but definitely my phone and any other thing that I deem is valuable, let's say like a tablet, I'll have that on me or inside my backpack behind a zip. Then in this case, as I brought my camera with me, I made sure to put that in between some soft clothes, and I also wrapped it with some bubble wrap for extra protection. And that sums up all the main categories for what you need to pack. But then we get to the miscellaneous, and as you'll see, this depends on where you're going, what you're doing. So starting off in my miscellaneous list, we have paracetamol or something else for headache relief. Then we've got my helmet. Not too much to say about this besides it's a helmet, and I've also been told when I wear it I look like Noddy. Nice, never heard of the cartoon, but I discovered soon after. Then there is a jacket, and I think a lot of us do this anyway, probably 99.9% of us, and I wore this right the way up until my destination. I also made sure I brought one that was warm, water resistant, and I think looks good. The cool thing about this jacket too is it also has this inner layer which can be removed, so on harder days I wouldn't have to wear this whole thing and I could just remove that and wear the lighter jacket. And the funny thing is, I only think there was one day that I wore the full jacket, and the rest of the days I wore this inner layer. Then ski trousers, not being conservative with the color of these, I'm not getting lost in any crevasses, that's for sure. Gloves, very important. Both skiing ones and also lighter ones. Shout out to Primarni for these. Honestly, I think they're about £1.50 for 2 pairs, so a steal. Then we have ski socks, like I was mentioning earlier, as well as hand warmers. And of course, because it's going to be a fun holiday, that hip flask. And lastly, I do practice what I preach, guys. A satin pillowcase. Is it excessive? Maybe a tad. Do I regret my decision? No. And I almost actually forgot your personal items. Now this definitely deserves its own category, but this includes things such as your wallet, IDs, passports, any visas you may need, and any other sort of documentation. And this I would either keep on me in my jacket or my pocket, or in a layer that's secured in my bag. And that's everything I packed for my skiing trip to Tignes, as well as my half day in Geneva when traveling. Packing can be an art form. You probably know there's people who pack last minute and manage to never forget anything, but it usually comes down to your routine, your plan, and your order. Actually, also thinking about it, this is how I would pack for 2, 3, or even longer week stays, because the secret when it comes to those longer stays is really honestly laundry service and washing machines. So it's definitely possible to pack light for a short or long trip, and it just requires a little bit of preparation. If you've got any packing tips or you think I missed something, let me know below. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. Safe and easy travels, especially after watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.